Shabbat shalom, everyone. I first heard the story of the would-be prophet for hire, Balaam, at summer camp. Since this parsha almost always comes during the summer, it's not a story that I heard as a matter of course during religious school. And as a kid, there are few things funnier than your counselor making a fool of himself. So imagine how much fun a room full of campers had seeing their counselors come out as the talking donkey being ridden by the prophet for hire, Balaam. Now, I considered asking for volunteers to act this out, but I decided for a lot of reasons, bad backs, wrong shoes for riding, and the absolute certainty that not one of you would volunteer to do this. So I decided that we were not going to act this out today. So I want to make sure that you still get the gist, though. So this week, we're actually reading a double portion of Hukat and Balak. The topics that are covered in these two portions are vast, but I really can't pass up the opportunity to talk about a talking donkey because it really only comes around just the one time a year. So the story of Balak, the king, Balaam, and his donkey, and the people of Israel goes something like this. A Moabite king named Balak hires the prophet for hire, Balaam, to curse the Israelite people. Now, in the ancient world, cursing your enemy was a very well-established practice, and evidently it worked pretty well. Well enough to pay well for it, I guess. So Balak sends emissaries to meet this prophet, and they ask him to curse the Israelite people. Balaam only agrees if God gives permission, which God eventually does with the caveat that whatever I command you, that you shall do. So Balaam sends about this journey to go meet Balak and craft his curse, and he climbs aboard his trusty donkey. He's riding along, as you do on your donkey, but then the donkey suddenly swerves and catches his leg against the wall. Now Balaam, who's in a really big hurry to get to the king, beats his donkey. It's not a good choice, but he beats his donkey. Now, it happens not once, it happens not twice, it actually happens 3 times. And after the 3rd time, the donkey is finally fed up enough to say something and exclaims, I'm paraphrasing, "What did I do to you that would warrant me beating you 3 times? And Balaam, who is seemingly unfazed by the fact that his thus far non-talking donkey suddenly starts talking, replies, well, you made a fool out of me. If I had a sword with me, I would have killed you. You're lucky I just beat you. Now, the donkey's had it about up to here, and he says, well, look here, aren't I the same donkey that you've been riding for all of this time? All of these years, have I made a habit of, just turning suddenly? Don't I deserve maybe just a little bit more credit than that? And then the Torah says that God uncovered Balaam's eyes, and he was able to see an angel of God standing in the path before him, his sword drawn. And the angel says, if your donkey hadn't spared you and hadn't risked getting beaten not once or twice, but 3 times, I would have killed you and spared him. That gave Balaam pause, but he was eventually on his way again. And when he arrived at the king's camp, he was brought to 3 different locations to see the Israelite camp. And 3 times, Balak tries to ask Balaam to curse the Israelite people. And 3 times, he tries to turn his words into being a vessel of hatred and spew words of curse against the Israelites. But each time, Balaam was unable to curse them. He's only able to speak the words that Israel's God, Adonai, puts into his mouth. In the Torah Women's Commentary, Neely Sachar Fox writes that in this 3rd attempt, when Balaam utters his prophecy, he is apparently imbued with the divine spirit common in Israel's prophets. It seems that his role has changed from that of a pagan seer to prophet of God. The 3rd oracle sings the praises of a triumphant Israel and concludes by cursing her enemies. It's in this 3rd attempt that we hear the words that we say every morning in our liturgy, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How fair are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. For the first time out of the 3, Balaam looks upon the tents of Israel, and he saw a sea of humanity with all the beauty and all the complexity that comes with it. For the first time, Balaam saw the Israelites not as nameless, faceless people that he could curse and condemn without thought, but instead he looked into the faces of the others, and he saw God. And when he recognized that God desired that he bless Israel, he stopped looking for a reason not to. Instead, he looked up and he saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, and the Spirit of God came upon him. And this would-be prophet for hire, hired to curse the Israelite people, instead delivered a blessing so beautiful that we pray it every day. Balaam blessed the people of Israel. He saw the ways in which the Israelites cared and respected one another. He saw their tents turned just so, to allow for privacy and space when it was necessary, but where close enough to extend the hand of friendship and partnership when a neighbor was in need. He saw the complexities and the challenges and the realities of what it means to live together, but he also saw the overwhelming beauty of true community. As I read this text, I often wonder about the intentionality of building that loving and just society in the midst of hardship and challenges. I often wonder what kind of effort it must have taken to prioritize the good of your neighbor, even while you wandered the desert with an uncertain future ahead of you. I often wonder if they knew that it was up to them to live in such a way that they would merit God's blessing instead of a curse from a would-be prophet. And then I wonder where we stand today. Have we created the kind of community, the kind of society, the kind of world that merits blessing? Some days I wonder and I feel defeated. But other days I look around in awe at what we've been able to do and to build together. And while I can't say with any certainty, I believe that that's what it means to be in community, to continually be a work in progress, and that intentional progress is what makes us worthy of blessing. How will we know if we succeeded or even if we're on the right track? Perhaps we'll hear from a trusty donkey that sets us on the right path, but likely not. Instead, I suggest we listen to the words of Micah, the words that ring out in this week's Haftarah portion to remind us how to get where we want to go, to build the kind of society and community that we hope to have. He says, "You have been told what is good and what God requires of you, only to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Ken yehi ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat shalom." Invite everyone who is able to please rise as we turn to the Amidah.